and welcome back to Military Law Talks. So today I wanted to do a video on the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and explain what it is and what it does, because I found that some of my viewers don't have a background in the military, and so they don't know what the Uniform Code of Military Justice is. So I'm going to show you this. So this is a manual for courts martial. So this is from 2019. It's kind of an older edition. There is a more recent edition. It is all online now. This is not the UCMJ, but it contains the UCMJ. So it has a lot more than just the UCMJ in it. So the UCMJ is an act. It was passed by Congress and it has been amended multiple times. So, and then there's also the military rules of evidence that is contained in this manual for court martial and a lot more. And so let's explain just what the UCMJ is. Okay, so it is our Uniform Code of Military Justice. So what does that mean? It is a criminal code. So it is not civil law. So I saw a post about this on X recently where someone said, hey, this is like a military matter. It was a civilian, an issue with the transgender ban. Hey, this should go to military court, not civilian court. Okay, let me just clarify. This is just for criminal cases only. It is a criminal code and military courts are criminal courts only. And so it applies to the military. And I'll explain who encompass the military code of, or the Uniform Code of Military Justice has jurisdiction over, because it's a little broader than people realize. All right, and it's a uniform code. So I want to emphasize that it is the same throughout all military service branches. However, each of the service branches have their own implementing regulations. And so at that time, sometimes they differ in how we implement the Uniform Code of Military Justice, particularly when it comes to Article 15 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. That is a non-judicial punishment. Sometimes the service branches, how the service branches handle those Article 15s are a little different among those service branches. All right, and important to note, so the military having this separate code of justice, the separate criminal code, does predate the U.S. Constitution. And that's, I think, something really important and something that's very unique. Military law is strongly rooted in history and tradition. There was a military code of conduct for the military back to Roman times. The British military and Navy had their own criminal code, and we also did as well. We imported this idea in America. There were courts martial that is military courts in the Revolutionary War times. And so it does predate the U.S. Constitution. So there is a robust history of this separate code of criminal conduct for military members. In its modern form, it really dates back to the Military Justice Act of 1950. So after World War II, it came to light that there was all kinds of seemingly kangaroo courts, lots of courts martial during World War II. A lot of service members' rights were not protected during those proceedings. And so Congress, particularly if you think Congress in 1950, most congressional members were World War II veterans. So there was a lot of veterans in Congress, and they wanted to reform this military code, this military justice system. And so we had a major revision of the military justice system, the Military Justice Act that was passed in 1950. And then there have been subsequent multiple changes over time. And so recently, like I said, most recently, there's been so many changes that you should really defer to the most recent version of the manual for court martial that can be found online. And so even this, my book was printed, 2019 version, it's out of date. And so you got to refer to the online version. All right. And so currently, I liken the military system. It's very similar to the federal criminal code, but in many ways, and I will discuss this in a later video, the military code is far more restrictive and criminalizes a lot more acts than the federal criminal code or any state code. And so there's, and for specific reason, and I will discuss that next in this video. But the rules of evidence for the military rules of evidence really mirror and are very, very similar to the federal rules of evidence. So there's a lot of similarities, a lot of overlap. A lot of the rules are the same numbered, same rule exactly. So it's very, very similar. So military courts are similar to criminal courts. However, in my opinion, I would say that military courts are far more formal. We have a lot of things, a lot of processes and procedure in military courts that are very formal and look very formal and foreign to anyone who's practiced civilian law. It's pretty scripted. We have a certain things have to be put on the record, and so it is a little more formalized. The military system versus the civilians criminal system. All right, big question. Why do we have this separate military justice system? So we can look to past history and tradition, and even there's multiple Supreme Court precedent that discuss why we have this separate military system. We have a unique mission. The military has a unique mission to fight and win the nation's war. And part of how the military can keep good order and discipline, how commanders can keep discipline over those in the commander's command, is through the military justice system, through this separate code of justice. We also have worldwide deployment. So the uniqueness about the military Uniform Code of Military Justice, it applies worldwide. And so it doesn't matter where the crime occurred. It has worldwide jurisdiction and worldwide uniformity. So, I had court-martials when I was deployed to Afghanistan, and they looked, and everything was the same. A little more logistics involved when I was in Afghanistan versus, at home station back in garrison in the US. And so it is the same. And so because of that worldwide jurisdiction, worldwide deployments, we need this portable code of justice that we can use and implement anywhere in the world. Also, we have this requirement that we need instant mobility of personnel, and we need to be able to move people all around the world. Again, we have service members on every continent, I think, except Antarctica. Who knows? Maybe we have people there, but I just don't know about it. But literally every continent. So we need to be able to rapidly deploy people. So we need to have this quick, portable justice system. And I know sometimes it feels like it's slow, but actually compared to the civilian criminal justice system, cases move a lot quicker. In my experience, about half the time. And if it wants to be really quick, we can be very, very quick. There's this need for this speedy justice due to combat needs, particularly think of like large scale combat operations, World War II type scenario. We need to be able to quickly take care of misconduct, expedite the maybe removal of criminal actors off the deployment, or we can quickly administer some justice and then get them back back in the fighting force. And so we have this need for speedy, portable justice. Also, this is a quote from a Supreme Court case, and it's a case that I covered earlier in a previous video, Parker versus Levy. And this is a quote, and the quote is specialized, that the military system is a specialized society separate from civilian society. So, and that is absolutely true. Talk to anyone who's served in the military. We even speak a different language. And so we use a lot of words and terms that civilians don't understand, and even among our service branches, right? So, I served in the Army. We definitely speak a different language than people I know that served in the Navy or the Air Force. We have different terms for different things. And so we definitely have a unique, separate, specialized society. And so we have this unique need for this separate justice system. All right. And the main thrust, the main purpose is to achieve good order and discipline. I had a former student say that the UCMJ is the difference between a supervisor and a commander. And I think that that's absolutely true. It is essential for the command to keep good order and discipline in a unit to be able to administer justice under the UCMJ. All right. And so, what kind of jurisdiction do we have? What does that mean? What are the limits of the courts? Under the military justice system, the UCMJ has jurisdiction over the offense. So that means any offense committed by someone, we have jurisdiction over the person. It doesn't matter where it occurred. So the court doesn't have to be in the same place where the crime occurred. And so it's worldwide jurisdiction. So it doesn't matter where the crime occurred, and it can be tried in military courts. And there's possible concurrent jurisdiction. That means that the Supreme Court has said that this military justice system is what's called a separate sovereign. And so theoretically, and it's happened in a handful of cases that I personally am aware of, very high level, usually very serious charges, cases, murder, cases like that, where there can be the same crime can be tried in two different courts, maybe even three. So you have state courts. So if there's a crime that happens out on, state, out in off the military installation, and something that the state would have jurisdiction over, the state could prosecute the crime. The federal government potentially could prosecute the crime if it was committed in a place where there's concurrent jurisdiction between the federal government and the state government. And then also the military could prosecute if they have jurisdiction over the person, the individual who's accused of the crime. So there potentially could be, multiple forums that are trying one criminal defendant for the same crime, but in multiple different forums. And so the military justice system also has jurisdiction over the person. And so that's all active duty service members. They're subject to the UCMJ. Reservists or National Guard when they are serving on active duty Title X orders. Military cadet, people who are attending military academies, military cadets and midshipmen. Retirees, and I have a little asterisk by that, and I'll explain why, and enemy POW. See, there's all people that are subject to the UCMJ. And why I have an asterisk on retirees is that is something that's currently being litigated. I am going to discuss a very recent case where this issue was brought to the forefront. So can someone who's actually a retiree be subject to the UCMJ and be tried under the military court system at a court martial for a crime committed while in a retiree status? Now there's a pretty high profile case of a general who was recalled to active duty to face trial for crimes that were alleged to have committed while he was on active duty. And the jurisdiction is pretty clear for that. That absolutely can be done. It's done oftentimes, even reservists, right? For crimes committed while they were in an active status, they can be recalled to active duty to face trial for those crimes. But the issue in this case, and it is Larby versus Del Toro, I'm going to discuss this case in another video. So a subsequent video, I'm going to discuss this case at length. Is this issue of, can a retiree be subject to the UCMJ for crimes committed while a retiree, not crimes alleged to have committed while they were on active duty and then subsequently retired, but while they were in that retiree status. So I'm going to discuss that case in a later video. All right. And so That hopefully explains what the Uniform Code of Military Justice is. And if you have any questions or comments, or want more of this type of content, please put it in the comments below. Like, share, and share this video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and please share this video out there with others that you think would get some value out of this video. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in